Here at Silverstone for the opening round of the Toyo Tyres Motorsport UK British Rallycross Championship, there is an excellent entry of cars in the Retro Rallycross Championship. And Derek Jobb is the man that tops qualifying ahead of Gary Simpson and Steve Cousins, and we have enough cars for semi-finals. Derek Jobb is on pole for semi-final 1, and with him at the front of the grid is Steve Cousins in the Citroën AX. Mark Finch on the outside of row 1 in the Ford Fiesta. Then you've got Tony Lynch, former Super National champion, and Stuart Bowes alongside him. And Paul Easterbrook in the Toyota MR2 is at the rear of the field as we go racing. 5 laps for the Retro Rallycross contingent, and a really good start by Paul Easterbrook in the Toyota MR2, who dives up the inside, but it's the four-wheel drive car then, the Escort Cosworth and Derek Jobb, that leads the way. Not for long, Steve Cousins right round the outside, rather impudently, in the Citroën AX. Very committed move indeed, that. Through he has gone then. So Steve Cousins round the outside into the lead of the race, and now looks to try to pull away. The ex-Dan Rook car has the advantage as they come down towards the right at turn 5 for the first time. There is Stuart Bowes in the Mini Clubman, and right on his tail is Paul Easterbrook's Toyota he's Tony Lynch in his Toyota MR2. There's Easterbrook running third as Derek Jobb goes for the race lead and gets delayed and leaves the door wide open. And he's still delayed, and he gets assaulted by the Mini that gets assaulted by Tony Lynch's Team Geriatric Toyota MR2, a former Scottish rally car that. And Tony, who's competed in all sorts of different things, rallies, races and rallycross, has decided that this year he's going to concentrate on the retro category. Look at the damage on Derek Jobb's car. Front left looking a bit dog-eared as he comes out now of turn 1. Is he going to be okay to survive and get into the final? That's the next question as the cars then now sprint their way across the loose surface. Big drama for Paul Easterbrook as he lands. He gets all crossed up, hangs on to it, but as they come out of turn 5, Easterbrook gets very sideways indeed there. It's a really heavy landing after the jumper. Is that car happy? It really does seem to dance and slide more than others as it comes now down through turn 7. Derek Jobb is behind and looking to try to find a way through. The inside line goes the Escort. Paul Easterbrook's car runs out a little bit wide. The former autocrosser in danger of losing the place here because Derek Jobb looks to the inside again. It's interesting though that the four-wheel drive Escort does not seem to have the ability, even on the loose, to go powering past the opposition. Easterbrook up towards the jump. And again the car gets sideways, and that's why this time there's a real breakage, wheel off. I think last time maybe something was dislodged or started to weaken in the suspension. This time it's gone completely. Wheel is sheared off, and that is Paul Easterbrook's day done. He won't finish the race and he won't qualify for the final. There is the rather sorry sight of a 3-wheel Toyota MR2 sitting on the grass. Steve Cousins in the meantime goes through, looking good here for a race win with Derek Jobb chasing after him in second spot. Derek Jobb brakes hard, turns through the right-hander. He's back on the power now. Derek Jobb, a hugely experienced rallycrosser, very successful over the years as well. There is Stuart Bowes in the Mini. And that takes you back to the 1970s, even the early 1980s, when there were hordes of the square-fronted Minis in Division 2 of Rallycross. There, Tony Lynch with the MR2, chasing along behind. Some of the cars are period Rallycross cars, others built for the regulations of late. And Tony Lynch converting this car from rallying, found it up in Scotland, into a rallycross car. It looks far more standard than the MR2 of Paul Easterbrook, but it's still going. Steve Cousins out of turn 1. Former Super National racer in both Clio V6 and Lotus Exige. And as Paul Easterbrook walks away, he joins the ranks of spectator now as Derek Jobb goes through for second place, but Steve Cousins is looking good for a race win. Comes over the brow, sets the car up for turn 5. Derek Jobb is a little bit closer. Now, is Derek biding his time, just getting through the semi-final here, rather than throwing everything at it, knowing that it's the final that he needs to get to? Really heartening to see so many retro rallycross cars here at Silverstone and having enough for semi-finals. And that is accepting that we've had a few drop out with mechanical dramas over the course of the day. Third and fourth then, Stuart Bowes still having to battle along with Tony Lynch behind him. But Steve Cousins takes the checkered flag. He will win. Derek Jobb is going to be second. and third is going to be Stuart Bowes, with fourth Tony Lynch, and they will go through to the final. So Steve Cousins, Derek Job, Stuart Bowes, Tony Lynch go through. Paul Easterbrook, a retirement. Mark Finch sadly missing off the grid. Semi-final 2 about to get underway as we get set. This one has Gary Simpson on pole, with John Cross in the Lancia Stratos and David Hawford's Audi Quattro on row 1, Rob Gibson and Steve Harris on row 2. The lights go green. Slow start by David Halford, but a brilliant getaway by Steve Harris. He missed the first couple of qualifying runs with dramas this morning, but now absolutely scythes his way through to the front. And a rather sedate start by Rob Gibson, who's one of the prime movers behind the retro rallycross movement. The yellow 6R4 that Rob raced in period, former Malcolm Wilson rally car, comes up towards the jump for the first time. David Halford in the Herbert Brighton-Ada Tribute Audi is there just ahead of him. And up front in the RS200, made to look like Mark Rennison's championship winning car, it is Steve Harris, who we've seen in RX 150s and in the supercars. Through turn 7 they come. Audi versus MG, the Metro 6R4 on the back of the Quattro. And David Halford then threads his way up towards the end of the lap. John Cross with the ever evocative Lancia Stratos just up the road ahead of him. To the outside line goes Rob Gibson, and is that going to give him another place? It should do, but no, not quite. Does the 6R4 have a problem here, or is Rob Gibson playing with the opposition? Because normally you'd expect him to come scything through. Rob, former Ford dealer, used to be very successful in Porsches, and then when the influx of Group B cars came into the rallycross world, the 911 was pensioned off a 6R4. This 6R4 became the car, and the success continued. Gibson across the loose once more, turns through that right-hander, and David Halford is just ahead of him there now, but John Cross in the Stratos keeps both the Group B cars at bay. That almost overlap there, and still Rob Gibson can't find a way by. All of this is playing into the hands of the race leaders, who are building up the advantage all the time. Gibson again across the tarmac, tries to challenge on the outside, needs to get himself into the top 4. He's running out of laps as well. Another great feature of retro rallycross, not only the different shapes and sizes, but the different sounds of the cars. Contrast the noise of a 6R4 with the Audi Quattro, for example. Rob Gibson to the outside line, gets his nose in front down at turn 5, and gets the job done this time, right round the outside, and now, instantly, he's on the attack against John Cross, another very experienced driver. John in the 70s and 80s was a regular in rallycross, had many years away, did a bit of circuit racing on his comeback, and now into rallycross once more. Gibson's passed him as well, but Steve Harris is charging away up front. The spectacular BMW is that of Gary Simpson, the 3 Series BM. As the cars then come across the loose once more, David Halford is giving chase to John Cross, trying to find a way past him and get into the top 4, as over the brow comes Gary Simpson, former Super National racer with this car, and there you've got Rob Gibson looking for a way by. Can the BM fend him off as the Rennison Tribute RS200 of Steve Harris comes then down towards turn number 7? To the outside line goes Rob Gibson, but there Gary Simpson is not going to make life easy for him, that is for certain. They come across the loose section, they're on the normal lap. There's no joker, of course, in retro rallycross, didn't happen in period, so it doesn't happen now. To the last lap, Rob Gibson up the inside there, can he find a way by? Let's see. This time the answer is no, as the cars sprint up towards turn 2, and has Gibson got a problem? He slowed right down on the last lap of the semi-final. The 6R4 wilts, and Rob Gibson is heading for retirement. Drama right at the very end for Rob Gibson. And that means now the pressure is off the survivors, because they're all going to go through and qualify. For a race win, it will be, seemingly now, Steve Harris. He was last on the grid, but he has charged his way through even before turn 1, and the win is his. There, checkered flag is waved, and Steve Harris wins semi-final 2 of Retro Rallycross. Second place is going to go the way of Gary Simpson ahead of John Cross. Or is it? Because there David Halford tries to get up alongside, and the Quattro just misses out. John Cross third, and David Halford takes 4th at the very end. Steve Harris, the winner of semi-final 2. The Ford defeats the BMW of Gary Simpson, then John Cross ahead of David Holford, and Rob Gibson, a retirement. The final ready to go here at Silverstone for the retro rallycross category. Pole position for this is claimed by Steve Cousins, Steve Harris and Derek Jobb on row 1, Gary Simpson, John Cross row 2, it's Stuart Bowes, David Holford and Tony Lynch on row 3. Lights go green, it is blast off, and Steve Harris is away like a scalded cat as he goes down towards turn 1. Steve Harris in the RS200 turns through the right-hander, he leads the way, and Derek Jobb nowhere near as quick out of the blocks, maybe a little bit careful on the transmission. He's in second place as Gary Simpson gets all crossed up, and David Holford is sideways trying to work out which way the BMW will go next. That means the Audi loses out to the Toyota of Tony Lynch as the leaders bounce over the jump. Through they come then for the first time there. Stuart Bowes in the Mini, rather underpowered against some of the cars, but this, a tight twisty circuit, does negate some of that disadvantage, and he's up with Steve Cousins in that very well driven Citroën AX. It's John Cross at the back of the pack in the Stratos look. Up towards the end of lap number 1 they will come. Derek Jobb chases after Steve Harris now. Can he do anything about him? Through they turn. Steve Cousins coming under attack from Stuart Bowes, but Derek Jobb, even though he's the four-wheel drive class champion of last year in retro rallycross, today seeming to struggle for pace against the RS200. And the Escort, remember, is a newer car. Derek Jobb hustles on, but Steve Harris looking good here with the four-wheel drive RS200. It was Ford's Group B car for rallying, and then as the rules changed, and to be fair, even though Mark Lovell had won the British Rally Championship, it was never that successful a rally car. It found a very happy home in Rallycross. Tony Lynch there in the new to him MR2, keeping John Cross at bay as they head down through turn 7. Stuart Bowes on the tarmac in the Mini, on the loose there, the wedge-shaped sports cars, Toyota versus Lancia, the MR2 ahead of the Stratos. John Cross with a problem maybe, the car quivers left and right as he comes back onto the tarmac. John sorts himself out, but that looked like a bit of a moment for him as the leading Fords crash land back to earth down into turn 5. Cousins versus Bowes, then the next pair, Simpson versus the bewinged Audi of David Holford. The car made to look like Herbert Breiteneder's Audi Quattro short wheelbase, although perhaps the most famous thing that Herbert Brighton ever did was destroy an Audi in that colour scheme. One of the most spectacular barrel rolls ever. A big drama for Stuart Bowes, who has lost it coming out of turn 7, and he's nose first up against the tyres, so he's got to wait for a gap in the traffic and then reverse and then get going. So Stuart Bowes will drop right to the back of the pack as the leaders go by. Steve Harris, though, is looking good for a win here. He's up towards the jump and being fairly careful with the car. One or two drivers throw everything at that jump. Others a lot more cautious, mindful, especially in the older cars, that they don't want a breakage. We have had people drop out over the course of the day. We've seen it even in the World Championship meeting here with the very latest technology. Drivers just too aggressive over the jump and the car's not standing the punishment. Silverstone, a short lap. It's a twisty lap, it's a technical lap, and that jump a very spectacular part of the course. On to the last lap of the Retro Rallycross Championship final. Here at Silverstone go Steve Harris and Derek Jobb. The gap between them still hovering around a couple of seconds or so, but is Steve Harris going to have enough in hand? I think the answer is yes, because he's looking very good indeed up front. The RS200 with the GB1 sticker on the side, which is how Mark Rennison ran the car after winning the British Championship, and Mark himself then went into circuit racing, had a brief spell in the British Touring Car Championship, did some Formula Ford 1600, and the memory lives on with this immaculate car put together by Steve Harris and the team, and he's going to win at Silverstone with Derek Jobb there chasing him home. The checkered flag is at the ready, and so Steve Harris sprints up towards the first Retro Rallycross Championship final checkered flag of the season. He wins with Derek Jobb second, and third is going to go the way of Steve Cousins, who will come through. But what about the battle between Gary Simpson and David Holford? This is for 4th place, and it's the BMW just fending off the Audi. John Cross comes home 6th. Stuart Bowes will be 7th in the Mini, will he? Because Tony Lynch has just got back ahead of him, but Bowes, yes, has the speed, and Stuart Bowes goes through on the run to the checkered flag. It's a win for Steve Harris at Silverstone, with Derek Job second and Steve Cousins third. Fourth, just Gary Simpson, John Cross sixth behind David Holford, and Stuart Bowes seventh. Steve Cousins leads the Retro Rallycross Championship from Stuart Bowes and Tony Lynch. In the Super Retro class, it's Gary Simpson from John Cross.